Hello friends and welcome to CareersTalk. Today we are going to discuss 10 most asked business analyst interview questions shared by our WhatsApp community. Friends, my name is Ron Sharma. I'm an agile consultant based in Netherlands, and on this channel we invite industry experts to share their valuable experience and insight with all of us. Friends, before we get started, if you are new to our channel, please make sure to hit subscribe button and join our CareersTalk family. And if you want to join our business analyst WhatsApp group, watch the complete video to learn how you can join our incredible community. All right, without further ado, let's get started. So today we have Kanha Srivastava with us, who has more than 10 years of IT experience. He has played many roles, including business analyst, product manager, program manager, and currently working with Salesforce. So friends, this is our third session with Kanha. So if you haven't seen the previous two sessions, you can watch them after this one, and the links are into the description. Okay, so with that, let's welcome Kanha. Kanha, over to you, Kanha.
Thanks, Nan. It's great to be here again. And I hope our conversation is going to be very productive and relevant to the audience we have in the channel.
Absolutely, absolutely. Great. So if you allow, shall we start?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So the very first question is, tell us about a time when developers misunderstood your requirement, which you gave as a business analyst, and how do you notice the issue and what you are going to do about to fix it?
Good question. One thing I would like to share is that it is not very rare that it happens. I mean, it's not once in a million kind of scenario, but in fact, I would say I can recall
maybe not for you. Maybe not
Yeah.
for you, but maybe for other people.
Yeah, no, I'm saying yeah, exactly. But I'm saying we should be okay if we have certain scenarios where developers misunderstood the requirements or uh, there's a gap you have observed in the outcome of the sprint. So it happens if the project is big and development is fast. So it can happen. And I can recall there were a few instances where I've experienced in the similar situation during early my career, right? And I used to be overcautious about such deviation. So it's not about the deviation. Then I realized it's more about the degree of deviation, right? That means if I'm asking white and I'm getting black, it's something that worries me a lot. Otherwise, small deviation can happen. What my approach towards the misunderstanding or gap in the requirement has been is that I always kept myself as the owner of the requirement. So I strongly believe if there's any misunderstanding or the developer did not understand the requirement, I perceive as that it's my responsibility to make sure I'm able to translate the requirement for him, right? So business analyst is always accountable if there's a misunderstanding. For me, it's with business analyst to make sure he takes the right actions. You have technology in the support. You have UML diagrams. You have mock-ups. It's been easier than ever. You have it with the different tools and applications available in the market. So I'll make sure I have all the supportive resources attached in the requirements, or let's say user stories, as in when I'm explaining it to the developer, right? That's one of the mitigation strategies. Second thing, as we grow within the team, I always try to make the connection with the developer. As we grow in the team and the team grows within the project, you will also get to know who are your key players, who are the developers, who are the weak link in the team, who can tend to misunderstand the requirements, and accordingly you can drive your conversation and build a connection so that you are proactive when you are having certain set of people developing the feature, whereas who are the key horses of your development team to keep a discussion light. So it's all about mutual trust. I've never been a BA who would be sitting on someone's head to continue monitoring what is being developed. So you generally get to know the deviations when you yourself test or the tester test, and then you basically reveal such deviation, but make sure that you have right processes in place, right use cases in place. You have good coverage with with the testing scenarios to make sure such deviations are detected before UAT is conducted. To you, Sunil.
Wonderful, Kana. Thank you for that. Okay, so let's move on. And I think this is one of the most asked interview questions for business analysts, that what is your most difficult problems which you have solved as a business analyst, and how did you solve it, and what was the result? So if you can also give like one or two examples of this,
Okay.
that will be great, or maybe more. That's
Right,
it's up to
right,
you.
right. Sure. Probably I'll give one example, and since considering question is generic, I'll try to keep it generic, and so that the broader audience can leverage my answer. One of the most common and complex problem by I have seen, if I can recall it well, though there had been many, technical challenges, complex technological issues, business analysts reveal as in when they, go deeper into the project. But one of the most common issue, what I think in recent industry business analysts are facing is the challenge of adoption of new technology, right? For example, I remember I was in Deloitte. Deloitte being a financial firm, maximum of the applications used to deal the monetary related transactions. And when I was working as a business analyst, a program manager to bring the automation in place to bring more efficiency in the processes, one of the biggest challenge I felt is the adoption problem, right? That means acceptance of the new technology, trust on the new technology to the departments, and that really took a lot of efforts from us to make them understand the technology, right? I What approach I had taken, is basically I understood that you cannot convince anybody and build a trust overnight, and it never happened. We have seen AI and everything emerging really quickly. We have ChatGPT and so many tools, but it isn't like we're still using many of the traditional processes when it comes to monetary related or financial related applications, right? So things and organizations are not changing overnight. They're taking their own sweet time to understand the technology, assess the risk, and then build their trust and adopt that application or a technology. So as a business analyst, the main role what I had to play is to start from small, start for something which can build some trust, and then gradually when trust is there, you have rest of the supportive information to enlighten the functional team. They may not understand the core technology, but at least to understand the trust, right? To at least build the trust, you have to supply all the necessary ingredients. For example, what is data integrity, who is responsible for that, how certain technology is using the data, how we are keeping data stored, what up to what time we are keeping, what is the retention, and what are the other security aspects we put in place, or the technology which we're using is basically has the governance around to ensure it is secure, safe. And this is the trade-off you have to make. Not every technology is vulnerability free. As soon as you introduce new technology, vulnerabilities will get introduced. We have seen in digital, as soon as the banking got digitalization, we have more scams, more frauds happening. But doesn't mean we have stopped us to adopt the technology. So that was one of the most critical, I believe, in today's marketplace, where we have so many AI introduction, bots, and AI, data science backing up, machine learning, and all of that. This is the toughest job for a business analyst to resolve, to help business adopt, assess the risk, adopt, build trust, and then use the technology. Back to you, Sunil.
Great, Kana. Thank you for that. Kana, if you allow, I just want to add one small example
Yeah,
from one of my project, and I think that's a general example which, again, a lot of our viewers can use. So most of the time, you may have the scenarios where your client or someone else will come and they want to do certain changes during your during the sprint.
yeah,
So one of the project which we are doing, we are implementing a new e-commerce platform, and we are halfway through the development, and the marketing team requested a significant changes to the UI, the user interface. and that functionality is based on the new customer feedback. Now, these changes were not the part of the original scope, and of course, it may derail the project timeline and budget. So, what we have done as a product owner, as a business analyst, that we first conducted an impact analysis to assess like how these changes would affect our project scope, timeline, and budget,
Yeah.
right? And then we worked with the development team to understand the technical feasibility and the effort which is required. Based on that, we again have a couple of sessions, meetings with the stakeholders, including marketing, development, and management, to discuss the impact and the prioritization of the different tasks which we have in to our product backlog. So based on all these things, we proposed a phased implementation approach where all these critical changes that would enhance the
Mhm.
customer experience were prioritized and delivered into the current release. So, and less critical changes were scheduled for the future updates. So like this, we have done this thing, and then of course we have to document and we have to communicate to the multiple other parties with respect to the clear understanding of the revised scope. So yeah, these are the, I think, one of the example which people can use as it is, or with few modification here and there in this particular scenario. Kana?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Sunant.
Yeah,
That really helps.
great. Okay, so if you allow, let's move on to the next question.
Yeah.
Okay. So next question is again on similarly on a same line, that can you share a project where the team faced some technical problems
Mhm.
that affect the timeline, and how do you keep the project on track? Yeah, Anna?
Yeah, I mean, I'll build on to what you just said, right? It's uh, whenever you see uh, such challenges which are not very easy to solve, and where you as a business analyst need to pitch in. My approach had been first to, understand and decompose that problem with something which we can, individual owners, not, I'm not a wolf, a lone wolf, right? I've never been. I have been somebody who always try to fight with pack, that means with my team. And that easier to resolve problems when you have multiple people using their skills to solve a single problem, right? So I remember one of the projects where we had, right, we were integrating two applications using API. And definitely our application was the dependent one. We're extracting the information from the source application. Later, we realized that that application, the source application, was subject to change very frequently. And that was not very anticipated, though we know that the changes would happen, but we did not have the visibility as to how frequently those changes would happen in the source application. And that really introduced a lot of changes, a lot of iterative reworking and all of that. And as a business analyst, along with the team, I had to sit and understand that what we can change. Can we change the process? Can we change? Definitely, my approach was and had been like this: is what are the controllable factors in the problem, and what are the uncontrollable factors in the problem. So what I can control, what we cannot control, right? So what I can control, and up to what influence I can control. And it's very important as a business analyst or a project manager to understand you cannot bang your head for something which you cannot influence, right? Or probably you need to reach out to the right people to solve that problem for you. So sometimes I'm not sure people come up with this mindset that if they are the business analyst, or even in interviews, they demonstrate as if they are the one who needs to solve all the problem, right? It isn't like that. So you should know who are the right people to reach out to solve what level of problem, and hence stakeholder management is very important. Correct. So I'm coming back. I just got deviated a little bit, where I told that I would be working with my team on controllable factors. What is uncontrollable are my callouts to the rest of the stakeholders, saying that these are the uncontrollable factors. I cannot change how many times the source application changes. For example, if Swiggy uses Maps, Google Maps, Swiggy doesn't control how many versions changes would happen in Google Maps, right? It's just taking the source, extracting the information from the source and using the application. As soon as the Google changes, Swiggy will have to, or Zomato will have to change their application. Correct. So communication is a very critical part. I want to make sure that, and I made sure that the right stakeholder understand this. And also, why did we miss that, certain application is subject to so many of changes and all of that. Acknowledge where were the misses. If there were any from your side or the team, not to put anybody at spot again. It's just to make sure that we have something to learn for the future. So that had been my approach, and obviously with contemplating alternative options, we had gone through the change of technology. Can we use RPA if API isn't working? Can we use something else? So like that, or if not, then let's build a model where we have minimum number of information extracting, or we use combination of technology, let's say API plus RPA. So API will have the information which is subject to not get changed that frequently, whereas RPA will extract the information which is subject to change very frequently, or which has been changing very frequently. So like that, we were able to navigate to that challenge. Sunil, I hope that was relevant. Anything else I've missed, please let me know from the question.
No, I think you covered everything pretty
Yeah.
well. And if you allow, I'll just want to add one of the similar incident which happened with us on moreover on a same line. So shall I?
Yeah, sure, please.
Okay. So we are working on a project to integrate a new loan management system. It's for one of the UK bank, and they want to integrate this new loan management system with their existing core banking system. So they are working on mainframes and things like that. And we are midway through the project, and the development team faced a technical challenge, which was that they're not able to do the system compatibility. So the legacy core banking system uses outdated technology, which made it difficult to integrate with the modern APIs of the new loan management platform. And this issue caused a lot of trouble to us. So what we have done that we of course we discuss between our technical team and third party vendors who provide the loan management
Yeah.
system to explore more potential solution. And after several brainstorming sessions, we decided two key actions, which is the very first is we thought to implement a middleware to bridge the gap between the old and the new system. And second is like we thought to adjust the API protocols for partial integration while still ensuring the backward compatibility. So like this, we come up with these two solution. And after understanding this solution, we work with the different stakeholders, including the project manager, to update the project timeline and reprioritize the different tasks. And as you mentioned, we kept all the stakeholders, including the banking executives and the departments head, to inform about this technical challenge, and we presented the revised timeline. So yeah, I mean, this is one example where we value the technical solution and how it could help to integrate that system like this. Okay, so that's something which I just remember, so I think I just want to share. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so again, this is again common scenario. So during a sprint, some user stories could not be able to finish on time because of some unexpected challenges and issues which happened during the sprint. So how you manage this kind of scenarios, how you are going to help your team to meet the sprint goal, and while keeping the stakeholder happy, which is again a challenging task, I would say. Anna, over to you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Just processing. So the best approach, I think, is in such scenario, especially in the middle of the sprint, it is very unwelcome where you discover. But though it happens, devil, like I told, devil lies in details, right? So you at times uncover some dependencies which were not discussed during the sprint planning meeting. And the best method and strategy I've used is that up to what extent I understand we have 10 items to complete, right? It's okay if a couple of them we are finding challenge with. What we can do with the ones we have clarity with, right? Can we start prioritizing that quickly? Or even the ones which having challenges, can we split into the two items, or let's say three items, where the one which can be managed in this sprint would be taken care of, the remaining are left to the prioritization again or for further discussion. So that is the best trade-off generally I see. But whenever we're seeing unforeseen, it's very important that as a business analyst, we have two set of people to take care of. One is your customer, definitely, and at the same time, you have your team. At times when business analysts lack these stakeholder and this negotiation skills, it's your team who takes the dent. That means they'll have to stretch, they'll have to work overtime to accomplish the sprint goal velocity, and ensuring that their product sprint backlog is complete. So as a business analyst, it's important that you properly understand those unforeseen scenarios. If there were any misses, acknowledge. But if there were genuine scenarios which we were not be able to and could have been anticipated, those are to be called out very actively and very confidently to the stakeholder, so that they understand that if something is being left out is the right approach, and the satisfaction is there in place. Never overcommit. Don't try to cover up, because overcommitment it's a series, right? Once you start overcommitting to something, then again you won't be able to meet, and that chain will continue growing, and you will lose the trust. The stakeholders lose the trust within the team. So hence it's always important to keep again the transparency. Try to solve it into the pieces which can be actioned, which cannot be actioned, park them aside, and then help team navigate through all of them. So that's the usual approach I use, Sunil.
Great,
Back to you.
Kanha. Yeah, great, Kanha.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Small point I just want to add over here, that what normally we also do if we see this kind of same pattern again and again. So of course we do something called mid-sprint review, and this is nothing but just to review or to just assess the progress, and if we can make some necessary adjustment, things like that. So the idea is like we have to be flexible and adapt the plan based on the current situation. That's something which we do, and of course we have in our retrospective, we have to analyze like what went wrong and how the similar issue can be
Correct.
prevented in the future. So yeah, I mean, and as a BA, we have to just maintain the team morale. We have to focus on the collaboration, and we have to support each other basically, as you also mentioned, right? So we should work as a
Absolutely.
team to identify and address any kind of challenges or blockers which come to our way, and we
Correct.
should work on that. Yeah, so that's something
Correct.
which we can further do. Okay, great. Let's move on. Yeah, this is one is a little bit kind of technical. So let's say in your organization, you are combining different systems, and each system has their own data format. So how would you
Mhm.
handle this data mapping and transformation to make sure the system is integrated smoothly, and the data flow correctly in all the system? Yeah.
Okay. Honestly speaking, I've never been into the hands-on of the data part, because it's more of the data analytics than the data analysis. But as a BA, I had been responsible for, or my team was responsible for ensuring the migration happened properly, and business processes are not impacted. I remember in Salesforce, when I initially I was hired, I was part of M&A team, merger and acquisition. And since we had acquired Salesforce had acquired Slack and MuleSoft, and Tableau as well. All these three organizations used to have their own fleet of systems. The different data patterns, different data, taxonomies, and all of that. So one of the biggest challenge I can remember, what I had found, while volume and other data specific challenges will always be there, right? Where not necessarily the infrastructure is same there. One application using SQL, another using Teradata, and something uses something different. So we always have, you know, architects and SMEs in support. But however, one of the biggest challenge for as a business analyst, and I think many of us would agree with that, is the consistency in the data and the taxonomy. That means, I give you an example. In one application, the customer ID was used as account ID, and another it was customer ID. Correct. However, once we integrate the system, have only one nomenclature or naming convention for all the customer ID. It should be customer ID or account ID. Correct. Having this sorted without impacting the operations was very challenging, because you always have a lot of communication hands and go with the customer. For example, you have automated emails being sent to the customer using these information. The moment you change, even customer is not able to comprehend what is what is the change is being made. And especially let me signify the importance of integrity, data integrity. Think about your bank balance is being swapped with somebody else, right? So then if our account balance is swapped, I would be really happy. I'm not sure you would be delighted at all. But yes, so data integrity is really essential part while you're having the transformation rules. So what are transformation rules? When you transfer the data from one system to other system, you either remove the suffix, or you introduce suffix, prefix, you make certain adjustment to ensure the data is consistent in all the system, and ultimately entire data warehouse or source of the information is is looking like one for the application which is fetching the data. So that was one of the scenario I could explain, Sunand. Unfortunately, I hadn't been into major migration projects, data migration projects, but this was something I found interesting, and for the first time for me, and as a business analyst, when you have migration in place, that is one of the most critical and difficult projects. And in my life, in my experience throughout, migration project, something I was still scared of. So back to you, Sunand.
Yeah, quickly. So I won't take much time. You have already defined it. So again, same migration thing which we are doing a long time back for one of the banking client. So see, in these kind of project, if you ask me, we have to first of all understand the source of the data. So what we are doing, we are taking, there are lots of upstream, we are taking, there are a lot of feeds which are coming into our system. We are adding some processing logic into it, and then we are sending it to some other system. That was normally we are doing. But then those feeds which coming from our this system is again coming from somewhere else, right? So we have to identify all these data formats. It's very important. We have to document the data format, the structure, the schemas of each system. And then we have to create an inventory of all the data elements, right? There can be a lot of different types of data. There might be a lot of kind of relationships exist within all these data and with the different files. There are a lot of dependencies which are there in these kind of projects, right? So we have to understand, we have to document it first. It's very important to document all this. And then we should work on the mapping of this. So of course, we have to create all this data mapping specifications, right? That how the data from each source will be transformed and integrated to the other, right? So we have to do that. We have to map different fields from source system to the target system to ensure that we have a compatibility and a consistency across both the systems. And of course, we have to choose the right set of tools, which is again very important. It can be any ETL tool to extract, to transfer, and to load the data. And if possible, it has to be automate, so that there won't be any problem when we do this data extraction and the transformation and the loading process. So that will happen smoothly if we use some right set of tools. Otherwise, it's again very cumbersome process altogether. And in the last, I would say, yes, of course, we have to do a lot of testing, and and multiple kind of testing, and multiple times, like we have to do multiple iterations to make sure that whatever the data which is supposed to be here in the target system, it is there. So we generate a lot of reports, test reports. We will do the comparison of these reports with the previous reports. We send it to all the different users just to check the
Just
integrity.
realized I should have asked this question to you instead you asking me this question.
No. I mean, I'm just adding, because see,
No,
I
absolutely.
have these experiences. That's why I'm sharing. Otherwise, I won't
No, I
interrupt
think
you because
it was really insightful. at least
This,
for audience and to me as well,
yeah. So
because
this
yeah.
something which I have done it, so that's why I'm sharing. Otherwise, I don't have much experience like you have in that
No,
field.
no,
But anyway,
absolutely.
so yes, that's what, because I'm able to now recall, right, whatever the things which you have done.
Correct,
So yeah, these are the things which
correct,
exactly have
correct.
done. It's a
Thanks
long
for sharing.
project, like 1.5 years long project, lot of documentation, lot of training for both the, there are multiple, teams who are going to use that kind of, there are a lot of government officials who are going to use those reports.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a Singapore project, so it's a huge project for us. Anyway, good. Now I'm not going to interrupt you.
No,
Otherwise
no,
this
no.
session is going to be a long one.
Yeah.
Okay, so okay, let's move on to the next question. So let's say you're gathering the requirements for your new project, and
Hmm.
but then your stakeholders are giving you some unclear input, or let's say a vague input, right? So how would you clarify and refine these requirements so the team, your developers, will understand them more clearly? And it happens sometimes even the client themselves are not clear. They just give you something, but they meant to say something else. Later on, you figure it out, right? So yeah, this is a very common
Okay,
challenge.
again, you are giving the answer, huh? Okay, so I would go on this first is when it comes to requirement. The first thing I do is I make sure that I emphasize on the factor that customer and the stakeholders are also equally accountable for the requirements, right? And I should have the right metrics to follow if in case I'm not getting the right requirements. Next, whenever I start feeling like that, no, these requirements are vague and you're not very clear enough for us to make sure that our end results are accurate, or the development is accurate, the first thing I do is that I try to understand why the requirements are vague. You remember, Sunand, I think we have discussed very briefly in my previous interview, what is what the vague requirement does to the project, how risky it is, basically the assumptions, and the lack of clarity to the project, because it generates a lot of project creep and hence and forth chaotic conversation with the customer. So the first thing I do, I try to understand why it is vague first, and the most normal general reason is that what you told, right? At times stakeholders, they themselves don't know what they want to build, right? Or they are not absolutely clear. So once they have application in hand or MVP in hand, they come up with, oh, okay, I wanted this instead of this, or it could have been this. So then definitely the next approach for me to make sure whenever we have vague requirements, I emphasize post the listation that these are my assumptions. This is something I'm yet to get, and this is what is basically the impact of assumption, either in the cost, time, or triple constant, what we speak, right? Or a quality, or something or other would be impacted. So I always emphasize optimization technique. The second reason is at times what I have experienced, I think many would have experienced a difficult stakeholder, correct? A set of difficult customer to work with. They don't want to, they're at times arrogant, or they don't want to have a lot of conversation. They just want you to gather all the information in a single set, illustration session, and they are very reluctant to give you hands and foot information. They probably postpone because of other priority. So it's very important that like I told, right, I make sure that they understand it's their accountability, and I'm not the one who's going to scratch my head if I am not getting something which I'm supposed to, right? I should have right POCs internally as well as the client side to make sure I reach out to them and ensure I have what my developer deserves. Correct. And that is, as a business, that's my role. Otherwise, I'll start creating, project creep for my development team to struggle, to stretch, and that is again, it's not something very welcome in the project. So that's my approach, and that's my strategy and mindset, basically, Sunad, when it comes to ambiguous or vague requirements. Yes, you should have right documentation in place. You should have right callouts. You need to make sure whenever you are having again, you can ensure if you are dealing with a difficult customer, you make sure what I used to do, I used to discuss with my development team before I go to a listation session. I ask them what all details they want, so I make sure that my session is more efficient than ever. So we don't need any follow-up sessions to complete the requirements. So these are the small tricks what I would suggest to use. But include the assumption section either in user story acceptance criteria, or in the documentation you're keeping, or in the emails post illustration is done or workshop is done for the requirement, to highlight that this is assumption, this is our understanding, and this is the impact it can happen to the project, either delay or additional cost, or compromise on the security or the quality. Back to you, Sachin.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Kana, for that all these response. Great. Okay. Let's move on to the next question. And the next question is on user stories. So let's say you are defining user stories and acceptance criteria for
Mhm,
your new feature. So how would you
mhm,
ensure that the user stories are detailed enough and they are aligned with the business goal, with the product goal?
mhm.
And how would you work with the different stakeholders to define the acceptance criteria that meet their
Okay.
needs?
Okay. Fair question. So first was how we make sure that it is aligned to the business goal, right? For that, uh, as a business analyst or business as come scrum master, you should always have the big picture in mind. Understand the business goal, because when you understand the business goal, you have the reason why a project is being built. Let's take an example. If you are introducing a software to solve a problem in your organization, you understand what are those problems and what are the KPIs to assess that problem. Or let's say if you're introducing a software for more efficiency, let's say automation project, to automate certain processes which are very lethargic, or very manual in terms of the daily exercise the team goes through. So the KPIs, that means what is the turnaround time of the process, currently process taking, let's say loan application approval, currently with manual documentation, manual review, manual data entries and all of that, it is taking 15 days to get an application approved, right? I want to bring it to 7 days or reduce the. So I want to make sure I understand the big picture, right? Now whenever I have the requirements, or the user stories being prioritized, I'll keep that what I am discussing today is somehow mapped to the original objective of the project, is reducing the time. How this user story is a logical increment to that objective, right? So let's say if somebody is suggesting certain feature and that enhances the efficiency, I would take it. Whereas if it is more to do with the aesthetic of an application or individual's interest, for example, like just provide us the XYZ report, and that is very specific to one user or two user, may not fulfill the entire purpose. I'll probably challenge the requirement and the valuation of that requirement. So keep validating, and that will automatically make sure that you have the acceptance criteria and everything mapped back to the business goal. First thing, whenever I'm writing acceptance criteria, while I always make sure that product owner and the requirement providers are in line with the acceptance criteria and I have the right buy-ins, but I also make sure that I always try to put myself in the shoes of the customer or the user going to use the feature, and I totally focus on the outcome of that feature being built, or what is the addition that user story is going to bring in. Correct. For example, users login password page that user story is supposed to create. So I will make sure that do I have the right security? That means alphanumeric alerts. Do I have forgot password? Do I have forgot ID use case and all of that, to make sure entire business case is there. That is additional filter, and make sure that you keep that user story in relevance with the progression of the project. So this is how I use. Always attach the major or baseline documents, if you have any BRD or any other conversations regarding or anything, to substantiate the acceptance criteria, and which will help you get the UAT review successfully done. So that's the strategy I follow. So anything you would like to add?
No, we are good, Kana, for that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. And this is kind of different because not many people ask this question. And the question is like, when you would like to use a waterfall approach over agile and
Mhm.
other way around. So, if you can share some example, when do you think
Yeah.
that each method would be more suitable? So, one example maybe each, Kana.
Okay. I'll go out of the league here because in internet the answer is pretty clear, right? Wherever you have requirements, properly defined, go for waterfall, agile, whereas it is more iterative, flexible, and all of that. Uh, Top of what is available, I want to give to the audience is that in current uh, industry and at least in last 3 4 years, what I've seen is certainly where you have the requirements freezed and you understand the requirement, you are using waterfall. Even in that, there's a catch. Many organizations are, despite they have the clarity, they are going with the agile. Reason being because they don't have to wait for entire application to develop before utilizing whatever is being already built. Correct. So as soon as they have the MVP ready, they would rather like it to be deployed so that they will continue using while the rest of the features being added to the baseline application. So agile is very very prominent just because of a lot of features it brings. Definitely flexibility. It gives you more visibility towards what is being built. It gives you more visionary ideas. That means, okay, what I have given and now what I have in hand, I want something else. So that level of transparency what agile bring is unmatched when it comes to waterfall. But in one of the giant e-commerce firm, I was working as a program manager, and what I have observed is many big organization, the agile is being used, sorry, waterfall is being used where we have very defined budget, and especially those are non-IT companies. Let's say if you have a pharmaceutical company, the pharmaceutical company generally what they do is basically they have a fixed budget for IT projects. Let's say 10 crore rupees. So when your budget is fixed, their IT department want to make sure their scope is also fixed, right? When the scope is fixed, they want to make sure it is a waterfall. They deploy, they develop everything, and they deploy in quarterly basis. That helps them make sure they are able to track their quarterly budget or yearly budget on the IT spends. So this is one of the prominent areas where still the waterfall is being used. The second reason why I see is waterfall is being waterfall is being used is where you have very strict time and material contract with the customer. I have never seen a project in my life where you have deployed a piece of code to use the customer, and the customer never come back to us suggesting new changes or changes to the existing requirements, all of that, right? So when you have very tight T&M budgeting, the organization prefer going with developing everything together and then delivering it to the customer to make sure they don't have unanticipated changes. Those only the areas where waterfall is being used. Otherwise, rest of the organization, be it requirements are definitive or variable, agile is being used. Last thing I want to add, Sunand, I see agile. Agile doesn't mean that you can change the requirement whenever you want. It isn't like it is like one of my analogy for agile is you. I think we all have played that game Jenga, where we keep the pieces of wood one after the other and rack them up, and then we start withdrawing the pieces, and until then the entire rack is fallen. So with that, agile is like that. Whenever you're changing requirement, you want to make sure you are not hitting the main frame of the application. It should not the changes should not be very frequent, as if they impact the fundamental development of the application, because that again create lot of unwarranted issues and compromises the application architecture and security, and a lot of other problems come into play. So agile is bringing changes, but those changes should be constructive and progressive rather than destructive. So agile, generally people misunderstood, and even the stakeholder, yeah, it's agile project, we can always change the requirement. So that mindset should change. That's my understanding, and my my this is how I envisage an agile development to be.
Okay, great perspective, Kana.
Yeah.
Just for our audience, we have done a detailed session on budgeting, like different kind of budgeting model which we can use in agile way of working. So if you have time, please watch it. We have done that session last year, I guess. So yeah, Kana, thank you for that perspective. Okay, I think let's move on. So let's say you are at project kickoff meeting and the team
Mm-hmm.
is unsure that how to start working on requirements. So as a senior business analyst, what step would you take to guide the team and help them to start? Basically, what should be their first step, Hannah?
When you say kickoff means start of the project,
Yeah,
right?
just started.
Okay, right. So for me and for anybody that matters, a business analyst or any project manager, starting phase of a project would always be challenging. I strongly follow Tuckman's rule, which is, you have forming, storming, norming, and performing, where your team will initially be new to the project, stakeholders would be new, and initially you will uncover a lot of challenges, then you actually settle in with the team, correct? So I will build on to my previous suggestions on agile, and even the uh, uh, you know team is growing within the project, and you get to know each other more, and try to understand. So initially my strategy would always to how I can help my team get the confidence. And I always, when I start sprint zero, I always make sure we are not over focused around the velocity or making sure a sprint backlog is completed and all of that. Initially, it will happen that at times you whatever you have committed in the sprint planning are not able to execute. It can happen, and gradually your velocity will also pick pace. So my starting approach for the first sprint is always start with small, start with something critical to the business, start with something which is important, but at the same time easy. I would not like to pick something very difficult to start off with, because that deteriorate or impact the overall confidence and chemistry of the team. So I'll start with something easy, something important to the customer, and then gradually I'll be focusing on the other measurements of these sprints, for example, sprint story points, consumptions, velocity, and all of that. So that's my take, Sunil, and this is how I have been strategizing my sprint zero.
Okay, Kana, wonderful. And for our audience, again, we have created, I think, last year a session on same, like a step-by-step process, how to start with your team, new team. I
Yeah.
think we have created one PPT also, where we have like 9, 10 different steps how to start your new team. So if you guys want that, just put it into a comment, and I will maybe put it into a document from where you can download it. Okay, so Kana, thank you for that. Uh, okay, move on. So the next question is, let's say your requirements are changing during the project, right?
Uh-huh.
So can you describe any past incident or any of your experience where you have to manage all the changing requirement, and it is very difficult to keep track of your sprint goal, product goal, business goal when we have so many changing requirement. So what you have done to manage all this kind of
Right,
requirements?
right. I mean, I've been into one project, definitely, and not one, could be few more, where there were certain phases where the changes were very frequent, and it's very difficult to manage with these changing requirements, especially if the such changes come during the development phase of the project. That means during in between the sprint, active sprint. it is really unwelcome for the team, right? So one of the strategy I always do is I first should understand that I have right trade-off in place. Correct. So as a business analyst, whenever I have these changing requirements, and we understand the source, first thing I would like to do is align the stakeholders and rest of the key people from the projects, internal or external, to in line with that. There's something source is changing, right? Can be sometimes stakeholders themselves, they keep changing the requirements. So I make sure that they are aligned, that what impacts it creates. Second, I create some ground rules that when those changes should be introduced. Like I told, should be until the sprint is completed, and up to what stage you can change the requirement. So you can change the requirement until it is picked up in the for the sprint. Before that, you change it, fine. We are flexible. But once it is picked up, I try to negotiate that don't change the requirements. That is difficult for team to complete the work at all, and stop the momentum of the project altogether. And the last step generally I do is I have trade-off in place. So whenever you have some requirement coming in, instead of I am asking my team to do both the items, you take all the efforts and all of that and stretch the work. I try to have a fair trade between the prioritization. Okay, you have this coming in, or a stakeholder suggesting I have this coming in. I would say that what you would like to drop from this sprint or from the next sprint or so on, and so that we are able to balance the work as well as the momentum, and again customer satisfaction is taken care of as well. Business impact, sorry, technical impact is very important, like you have already emphasized, Sunil, that every change being brought must be evaluated for the impact it creates not only technical but also the process wise, and the people level, where people also get frustrated every time they start something and they have to drop it off in middle and pick something else. So make sure you always able to emphasize and understand, make team understand that the patch what they are going through is temporary, and you are towards fixing them with the stakeholder to make sure that we have less frequent changes, and we are able to bring more consistency when it comes to forthcoming requirements. So this is how I deal it, Sunat.
Wonderful, Kana. Thank you for that. And I think with this, we comes to end of our session. Okay, it's almost I think 50 to 60 minutes for this session. Okay, great, wonderful.
Yeah,
So, Kana, we're looking forward to have more session with you in future. Hopefully, this time little bit early. I know you have some personal commitments, so that's why we are not able to done this session. But yeah, hopefully we'll see you soon. And friends, we hope that you found this session helpful. Don't forget to leave a comment and like the video to show your support. And if you're new here, please subscribe and become a part of our CareersTalk family. So with this, see you in the next session. Thank you everyone, and thank you, Kana, one more time.
thank you, Sunil. Thanks everybody.
Yeah.